Week three of college football is here, and that means we see some pretty exciting matchups in 2024. And we've already seen a few, and we're going to see plenty more in week three. UCF and TCU will face each other this weekend, and this is a very exciting, very intriguing matchup for the Big 12 as well as for both schools. They both come in 2-0 to this game and have gotten here in a little bit different ways, but still, you're undefeated and we will see exactly where these two line up compared to each other once they play. UCF has been absolutely dominant against inferior opponents, averaging 51 points a game, beating New Hampshire, beating Sam Houston. That's not going to be anything that you can exactly measure compared to a lot of other teams. I thought Sam Houston would put up a little bit more of a fight, but they did not. So that's kind of disappointing to see for them. But UCF also flexed its muscles there and showed exactly who they are and how dominant they can be. This line is very interesting. This is going to be something we'll discuss here in a little bit because these two teams appear to be fairly equal in terms of potential. But when you look at what UCF did and compare it to TCU, TCU didn't exactly play a powerhouse last week, but they did play Stanford, a team that is much better than either of the teams that UCF played. And they took care of business on the road, a tough road game to start the year. So we'll see how this plays out. Like I said, the line actually started in TCU's favor. And as I'm recording now, it has already swung into UCF's favor. So that's something to keep an eye on. If you're someone who wants to bet this game, keep an eye on this one. It has already fluctuated quite a bit. And that's going to be something to pay attention to and could be a very fun live bet depending on how this game starts out. The first meeting between these two teams, which I was kind of surprised to see. And when you look at what these two teams bring to the table, the question for both probably is going to be, well, can you ramp up the intensity of your play? Now, TCU has been tested a little bit more when they played Stanford. UCF hasn't exactly played anybody that is going to test them. So can they ramp up the intensity for a team like TCU? And it's two games in the season, so it's a question. But also, I'm excited to see what this team can do offensively to get things a little bit more balanced. Still, obviously, want to pound the rushing attack and see if TCU is capable of stopping that. For TCU, is Will Hoover find a consistency? Jess Hoover has been really fun to watch so far this year, but we've also seen some downside to him. We've seen some inconsistent play and we've seen some struggles on his part. And this offense is only going to go as far as the quarterback position takes them. A very exciting group of playmakers. It's just a matter of can the quarterback position play its role. The matchup I'm curious to watch the most probably is going to be UCF's rush offense against TCU's rush defense. These are two teams that do really well running the football. And I think that TCU's run defense so far has been fairly impressive. But you're facing the number one rated UCF rush offense. Again, playing against inferior opponents will do that. But also, this is a very good rushing attack. That's going to be very difficult to stop. And I'm excited to see what TCU's defensive line can do against UCF's offensive line. Instead of the linebackers and the skill position players alike do their part for each side. That's really going to be the most interesting thing to watch if you are asking my opinion. Now, when you look at who TCU brings to the table, there are a number of players that I'm excited to watch, and there are a number of players that are going to play a bigger role in this game. We start with Savion Williams, and Savion Williams is somebody that is kind of flying under the radar, but people are still kind of excited about in terms of an NFL prospect. 6'5", 225 pounds. TCU hasn't quite found a way to get him involved as much in the offense. So you'd like to see him get a few more touches, averaging under 10 yards per catch right now. So that's something that they'd like to see change in this game. And it'll be fun to see how he can go up against this UCF secondary, a secondary that lost a couple of key pieces coming into this year. So we'll see how they handle Savion Williams. They also have plenty of other options in that passing attack. The guy getting in the ball, we talked about him before, Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover is someone who is extremely talented. You see the confidence when he's playing really well, but he has kind of struggled in the consistency department. So if he can find ways to balance things out and figure out how to get everything between the ears all set, then you're feeling pretty good about TCU's chances. Cam Cook's been a very interesting player too. You thought he was going to be a very important piece coming into the year, and so far we've seen his potential. I think that he is in store for a very exciting career, and this will be a big test for him. When you flip to the defensive side of the ball, guys like Nnamdi Oyazer are going to be very interesting to watch. I think that this defense as a whole, you probably put a number of players in these last two spots. Obiazer is already playing really well, had a big year last year, and is already getting off to a strong start. So we'll see what he can do in terms of disrupting the backfield, and we'll see what the back end of the defense can do as well. Because UCF is going to want to run the football, but they still have a passing attack that is worth paying attention to. So when you had guys like Bud Clark coming back, you knew that you had a secondary with some talent, but there's still some questions about the new faces that are going to step up as well. So keep an eye on that defense and how they handle UCF's offense as well. Flipping to the UCF Knights, we talked about them a little bit and who we should pay attention to. KJ Jefferson is going to lead the show. He is going to lead the charge for UCF, and this is a very exciting offense with him running the football as well as throwing it. I think that you're going to see him throw a little bit more than we've seen in the past. And you're looking at a pass offense that is still very exciting, despite the fact that they really want to run the football as much as possible. And how could you not? When you have RJ Harvey and Penny Boone in the backfield, along with KJ Jefferson, it's easy to see why you want to attack that rushing attack and attack TCU's defense on the ground. Kobe Hudson is an explosive weapon. I think that he is just the beginning for UCF and what they're capable of doing through the air. Again, a lot of that stems on KJ Jefferson's ability to move the ball to his receivers, but you have plenty of options. The defense is going to have their hands full. So a guy like Deshaun Pace to me really fits in well with this team. This is a guy who has the experience at both linebacker and defensive back, so he knows how to defend the run as well as work out in space to defend the pass. And TCU's offense is going to give them a healthy dose of both. So Deshaun Pace to me is a very important player, kind of the X factor of the defense, as someone who has that experience in both of those positions. But the defensive line is going to be really fun to watch as well. Similar to TCU, you have plenty of options, and it's just a matter of which one of those guys do you want to pay attention to the most. Now, when you look at the interior defensive line, that's really what's going to determine how successful TCU will be, because this is the UCF defensive tackle group that has plenty of disruptive abilities. And if they do that, they are going to slow down what is supposed to be a very explosive offense. And that could definitely still happen. But if UCF is getting penetration and being disruptive, you're looking at a team that is going to switch the momentum in their favor. When you're picking this game, this is really tough. I think it is a very close game. And while both teams have explosive offenses, they kind of do it in different ways. Right now, I think that you've seen a UCF team that hasn't been tested quite yet, and a TCU team that has been tested, but also there's some questions. This is going to be a close game. I think that regardless of who wins this game, it's going to be fun. It's going to be hopefully a barn burner, a shootout, if you will, and it's going to be fun to see which one of these teams comes out on top.